Hey guys, I'm Mark. Yesterday, my buddy John brought me over a big bag full of Asian pears. And he brought them over because he knows how much I love them. And he told me that I had to come by and check out his tree over at his place just to see how well it was doing and how laden down with fruit it was. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I thought I'd bring you guys over here and just do a quick video about his tree and why I like Asian pears so much. And really, the first reason I like them so much goes without saying. You can see behind me, this tree is just loaded down with fruit. It's a single tree, and on it there are just bushels and bushels of pears that are ripening up and getting ready to be harvested here. You can see higher up on the tree, in fact, it is so laden down with fruit that some of the top branches have started to snap over under their own weight. So the productivity of this tree is amazing. Second to that, another reason why I love this tree so much is it's so resilient to pests. It really hardly has any pest issues whatsoever. You don't have to spray it at all. I mean, it might get some fire blight. That's like what a European pear tree would get. But even when it gets that, it just kind of shrugs it off and it doesn't bother it all too much. So it's a very tough tree. Some things that you might want to pay attention to if you are going to grow one of these, there are a couple things to look out for. Number one, I would say would be deer. Deer love to eat the leaves of these trees. I planted one at our farm last year and it's still a juvenile, and I haven't protected it with a fence yet, and I'm paying for it because it gets these nice clusters of leaves, this new growth on it, and then it seems like I go out the following week and it's all gnawed back down to the nubs. So if you're going to grow one, just put a little fence around it just to protect it for the first few years until the tree gets tall enough that it's able to be out of reach for the deer to eat the leaves, and then you should be fine. But you can see evidence of deer working on this tree by what's in front of me right here. There's nothing wrong with this tree. This is just where the deer have been able to eat all the lower leaves off of the branches. So it's a favorite for them, but just keep that in mind and you'll be fine. Another thing that you want to pay attention to if you're going to grow these is it is a fruit tree, meaning it drops a lot of sugar on the ground. And anytime you have a situation like that, you're going to have bees. So when you're taking account of where you want to plant this in your yard, think about that a little bit, because you probably don't want to be, real slick like I am right now out here without any shoes on. They do have yellow jackets, particularly in our area, that like to munch on the fruits when they're on the ground. So if you're going to plant one, don't plant it near a patio or anywhere you have a lot of foot traffic going on in your yard, and even places where pets like to frequent a whole lot. Just something to think about with all fruit trees, really. But it's a great tree. I guess the last thing that it's last but probably the most important aspect that you want to pay attention to is pollination on these guys. They have to have another tree, another Asian pear tree very close to them of a different variety. So they work like apples or blueberries in the same way. You have to have two different varieties very close to one another to cross-pollinate each other or pollinize one another. Now this is one single tree, and the way that this tree resolves that problem is there are a couple different varieties of pears that are grafted onto a single tree in this case. Now, if you go and you shop for one of these trees at your local nursery, or even a lot of hardware stores will carry these trees because they're so popular, at least in this area. If you look closely when you're buying it to the branches on the tree, you'll see there might be a couple different colored tags on each one of the branches. And if you look at those tags, that'll tell you what variety of Asian pear that particular piece that's grafted on there is. And that's an easy way that if you don't want to grow, 2 or 3 of these guys, if you just want one tree, then it solves that problem. Looking at the tree now, you'd have to look at it pretty closely to tell what the different varieties are. I can tell because I'm sort of close up to it, but they're kind of grown together. Some of the branches have a smaller variety pear on them, and I know those ones are a little bit sweeter in this case, and then it's got another variety on this particular tree that's a little bit more productive, but the fruits are larger. And if you want to, speaking about larger fruit, that brings up another concept that I wanted to talk about. If you wanted to alleviate the problem of the tree snapping underneath of its own weight, one thing that you can do is when the fruit clusters are starting to form on the tree, instead of having like 2 or 3 pears forming from one cluster, you could just pluck those extra ones off so that there's just a single fruit hanging there. And what that'll do is you won't have so much weight hanging on the tree, and you'll also have a larger average fruit size. So instead of 3 fruits hanging there, you'll just get one larger one. So that's something cool that you can do. But let me pluck one off here. I just want to taste it, and there we go. All right, so this is one of the fruits off of this tree, and you can see now that I'm holding it, another name for this tree is an apple pear, just because of the way the fruit is shaped. It doesn't have that regular teardrop pear shape, shaped more like an apple, and it actually, the texture of it is pretty similar to an apple too. But they're sweeter than apples. The first thing that you get when you bite into one of these is the sugar. They're just full of sugar, excellent flavor. I in fact prefer the flavor of Asian pears compared to any other pear, really. And I like the texture better too. Bartlett pears are good, but these guys are, I don't know, they have a soft spot in my heart. But you could eat them fresh like this. You could cook with them, you could bake with them, you could do them, saute them in a pan with a little bit of brown sugar, nutmeg, stuff like that. Or you could even cut them up, put them in a salad, make cocktails out of them. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can do with these guys. But if you're gonna pick one fruit tree that you should put in your yard, if you're gonna grow one and nothing else, I would say you'd have to consider growing an Asian pear tree. So those are Asian pears. That's my video about them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.